Honourable Pete Hodgson.
I'm sorry to interrupt the member or to take a call ahead of the member, but I want to offer the House a couple of explanations. The first is that this is simply the object cause, and the fact that it's simply the object cause does not make it unimportant. It actually is the heart of this bill. It's at the heart of this bill. It's a straightforward clause, but it is at the heart of the bill. And it says that the object of society is the advancement and promotion in New Zealand of science, technology and the humanities. And I want to say some things about the Royal Society in a minute, and its role in the advancement and promotion of New Zealand of science, technology and the humanities. But for the Honourable Rodney Hyde's benefit, if indeed this is necessary, I should just take a minute to explain to him that the Clerk of the House, who has sharper eyes than the rest of us, found that one of the words in the amendment in the name of Te Ururua Flavel in clause 5 of the bill, which of course we have dealt with, and I will be quick, was left out. And that word was alliterature. It was left out by error. And so I decided, having been drawn to my attention, to put it in again, and that was the amendment to the amendment. Now, Mr. Take No Prisoners, Speedy as she goes, Chairman, did not give me the opportunity to explain that to the House, and that's how the situation arose. And I understand the Chairman wishes to make progress, and I'm not at all critical of it, but I just thought I would let the honourable member know how that situation arose. Now, how does the society meet its object of the advancement and the promotion of science, technology and now the humanities? I'm going to give just one example. It is a program that was begun, I'm sorry to go back in history, by the aforementioned Honourable Simon Upton. And it concerns school teachers who teach science, actually also, and maths, but not, at the moment, humanities. And it says to those school teachers, you can apply for a scholarship to the Royal Society to give yourself 6 months break to go and do some science. You might want to advance your own studies in this, that or the other area of science. It needs to be of a practical, hands-on nature. It could be referred to, I suppose, as a bit of a mini thesis or a mini masterate or a mini postgraduate qualification, though there is no qualification that flows from it. And on conclusion of that 6 months, we hope that you will return to the classroom renewed and re-energised to progress your teaching of science to those young people in front of you. Now, that scholarship program is intensely popular, and I'm sure that there'll be many members of the House would acknowledge that they've run up against this or that school teacher who's headed off to become to improve their ability to measure and manage water quality, or to do any other thing in the areas of science. And some of the things that people get up to can be really rather interesting, even to the point of being off the wall. But that is run by the Royal Society. When I was Minister of Science, I became anxious that it was being used as an exit strategy by teachers. I was anxious that we'd somehow made it a bit easy for teachers to leave the classroom and maybe head off away from teaching forever. I then arranged for a bit of a review to be done, and that review came back straightforwardly, because they just interviewed a whole lot of people, with what we would now, I suppose, in retrospect say is pretty obvious finding, that actually if they were going to go, not giving them a scholarship wasn't going to hold them any longer, and that if they were going to go, and some of them did go from scholarship to leaving teaching altogether, that the fact is, Mr. Chairman, it was well outweighed by the number of teachers who came back into the classroom after their 6-month scholarship. So it's pretty much equivalent to what happens in the tertiary sector, where people get a sabbatical for 6 or 12 months. It is not as regular by any means. It's done only by a competitive process. It doesn't happen as of right. It's managed by the Royal Society. In fact, the person who managed it for years and years and years died as a young man only about 3 years ago. And a whole lot of teachers came together to mourn the passing of this fellow and to heap praise on the Royal Society for their handling of this particular scholarship. So that's one thing. That's one thing that the Royal Society does to meet its object. And I guess there's an interesting question in front of the Royal Society if this House decides to pass Clause 6. And that is whether that scholarship program changes. That's whether a person who teaches English or who teaches media studies is now going to be eligible to apply for a scholarship. My hope is that they will. Already mathematicians can, and you could say that maths is not a science but an art, and if you don't want to agree on either of those words, you could call it a philosophy. But already mathematicians can, so why can't, at that point, we've got the Royal Society managing this competitive sabbatical leave for secondary teachers around the country for pretty much everyone. And maybe not for physical education, I'm not sure. But the Minister of Education to my right may know about this scholarship program. If she doesn't, I would urge her and anyone else who's got an interest in education to find out a bit about it. It is an astonishingly good program. It's the brainchild of Simon Upton. It's been continued by successive governments. It works in instilling another round of excitement in those teachers that we all consider to be so important in our society. It is a cost-effective program. It's run by the Royal Society, and it is one of many, many things that they do. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to resume my seat in the hope that other colleagues will be able to indicate to the House what they think how the object of the Royal Society might now be best discharged.
Point of order.
Point of order, Honourable Anne Tolley.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I seek leave to correct an answer that I gave earlier today.
I think actually the member should do that after we've reported progress, because you can't actually do that in the Committee of the Whole. So the member will have to be quite sharp in that 5-minute period then to do that. Dr. Ashworth Chowdhury.
I think Honourable Pete Hodgson explained the object very, very well. Mr. Chairman, when I look at the objective as they're now put in this bill, it includes science, technology and humanities. Now, I've just been thinking about it, and there's one word which is